Let's start with breaking news. We just started recording, and this just happened. Rich, tell us what happened with this breaking news here.
Well, it's Super Bowl Sunday, and not long ago, it was just announced that Ivan Reitman, the producer and director, legendary, died at 75. I believe he was found peacefully in his sleep Saturday night at his home in Montecito, California. And his family released a press release saying, "Our family is grieving the unexpected loss of a husband, father, and grandfather who taught us to always seek the magic in life." Children Jason Reitman, Catherine Reitman, and Caroline Reitman said in a joint statement. "We take comfort that his work as a filmmaker brought laughter and happiness to countless others around the world. While we mourn privately, we hope those who knew him through his films will remember him always."
So yes, very sad news about Ivan Reitman. He was 75 years old. Let's talk about some of his filmography. Some of the films. What do you think it's going to be? What films
most known for? I mean, it's going to be popping up everywhere. I mean, it's going to be all Ghostbusters director. I mean, or is it going to be something else to you?
No, it's definitely Ghostbusters.
I think Ghostbusters will definitely be the first thing that'll be popping up, and I think next will be maybe Junior or Twins.
Junior.
I was thinking Twins. So yeah. I was thinking Twins, but yes, obviously it's going to be My Super Ex-Girlfriend. No, it's Twins. It's Ghostbusters and Twins are the ones that kind of the ones that I think.
Well, I'd say Stripes.
Sure, Stripes too.
But we were talking about this a little earlier before we recorded. But I mean, he's going to be known for getting like Bill Murray's like movie career going, and for getting Arnold Schwarzenegger's comedy career going.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, those are the two big things. I mean, and he's done some other great things throughout his career. Like, I mean, it's a guilty pleasure of mine, but I really like Evolution. And I think Richard's a big fan of No Strings Attached because of his favorite actor, Ashton Kutcher.
Actually, I never saw that. I'll probably have to watch that eventually one of these days. But one of his movies that I always watch, I watched it probably like 4 months ago, is Dave. Yeah, Dave. That's the movie that whenever it's on, I gotta watch. Sort of like American Presidents. It's one of those movies that I don't know. I continue to watch.
It's a feel good. It's a feel good dramedy with Kevin Kline, was it?
Mm-hmm. But
Sigourney Weaver.
But of course, as far as Ghostbusters goes, probably the other two is probably the Arnold Schwarzenegger ones, Twins and Kindergarten Cop. Those are the ones I always watch, continuously, and I still will.
Well, Ivan Reitman, people might not really remember this, but he was born or he was raised in Canada, and he came up in that late 70s, early 80s comedy troupe with SETV and those guys. He kind of started his career in National Lampoon magazine. He was kind of a guy who directed some of those radio shows.
So that explains Animal House, National Lampoon's Animal House, right?
That's why he became, and that's why he knew Bill Murray and all those guys. Mm-hmm. And also a lot of people might not know this, that even before that he was a producer, and he produced a lot of David Cronenberg's horror movies, his earlier horror movies. And so he was a guy who constantly was working behind the scenes, and then he finally got a chance to direct in the early 80s, and he exploded with Ghostbusters. Actually with Meatballs, want to think about it. Meatballs was the thing that really made his career, and then Ghostbusters made him into a superstar director. And he continued to be someone who was, as good as a producer as he was a director. And he was able to kind of jump in between dramedy and comedy. But
and he also produced Heavy Metal, which was very out of the blue. Yeah. But he got John Candy in that. It was.
Why do you think he took? He hasn't directed a movie since 2014's Draft Day. Why do you think he stopped, or
I'm thinking he had health problems. It seems now that because he died at 75, I think he had some kind of health problems, and it probably and with the success that his son Jason, it's when you see your son following in your footsteps, and you see him take over. Basically,
You want to get out of the way.
He feels
I have
more.
a- I have
It
a-
feels more like graceful or whatever. That
I have a darker take. I have a darker take. No, because he was going to do Ghostbusters 3, right? That
Yeah.
was the plan.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
And
I mean,
that was going to be after drafted, and then Amy Pascal. This is all confirmed in the leaks, in the Sony
Okay.
leaks. But Amy Pascal, stole the movie away from him, and locked him away from it. She was like, "Oh, this guy, he's an old man. He doesn't know anything about making movies anymore. He's past his time." And she gave it to Paul Feig, and look what he did.
yeah.
And I think that kind of she put a bad connotation on him on Hollywood, I believe.
Well, My Super Ex-Girlfriend and the other one, Draft Day was successful though. So yeah, I mean,
Well, I think in the late 90s and the early 2000s, he was having a difficult time really finding projects to work. I mean, a lot of his stuff, like even Evolutions, which is a movie that we both liked, or we all liked, didn't get an audience. And My Super Ex-Girlfriend was a movie that I kind of enjoyed in its fun way, but it didn't get an
I never
audience.
saw it.
Oh, it's not the greatest thing, but it's fun in the sense that in that early 2000s superhero type of way, kind of like the Hancock, but like in a more silly way.
Oh, all right.
yeah.
What Ivan Reitman was so good at, it was able to kind of mix dramedy with comedy. And I recently watched Ghostbusters like a couple months ago to get ready for Afterlife, and you forget how funny Ghostbusters is, but it's so grounded in some kind of real reality. It's never over the top, and it's very dry. It's really a deadpan comedy, and the writing is so good in that film. That's why I think it's has lived on for so long. The comedies now are so much into that SNL sketch show type of mentality that stories get lost with the comedy. It becomes more about the comedy. It becomes about the scenario and how awkward we can make the these type of situation. And Ivan Reitman was never about that kind of things. He was more about how precise we can make the comedy in the writing, and how we can make the writing fit the story, or the comedy fit the story. And I think that what makes him such a great comedy director.
Yeah, and he produced Space Jam, and that was huge. And then the next year he produced Howard Stern's Private Parts, so with Betty Thomas directing. But yeah, I mean, and then
He's produced a lot of great things throughout his career.
Even a couple years later, he produced Old School. I mean, that's another movie that everybody watches.
Yeah, he certainly was someone who liked the idea of being a mentor, and certainly in his own son's Jason Reitman's career, he had a really great eye for talent. And that's, that could be for directing, or that could be just for actors. And, he's the one who saw the comedy potential in Arnold Schwarzenegger, who everyone thought was just going to be this action hero. And he was the one who was able to say, this guy is actually very charming. And I think we could do something about that. And if you pair him with someone like Danny DeVito, you're going to have a big blockbuster. And that's what happened with Junior, right? That's what happened with Twins. That's what happened with Twins.
Well, it was Arnold Schwarzenegger is like one of his best things that he looks back on is that he passed on Stop Where My Mom Will Shoot, and he gave it to Stallone and said, this is perfect for you. and it's produced by Ivan Reitman. So
Yeah, it's extremely tragic that we lost him. I mean, he's one of those guys in the business that everyone he worked with liked him. He was very well liked, by all these actors. And Richard was brought up earlier before we recorded how Arnold Schwarzenegger was giving an interview. With who was it, Rich?
it was Jimmy Kimmel Live, and Arnold Schwarzenegger was asked about triplets, how that situation is going, and he said that they were getting ready to shoot in the fall. So that's the project that.
Yeah, that was going to be the return of Ivan Reitman, and he also mentioned in that interview that Ivan Reitman had really kind of been developing that script and perfecting it over the past decade. And it's I'm sure the movie's going to end up getting produced eventually, but it's just a damn shame that it couldn't have been Ivan Reitman's triumphant return.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they're even going to want to be involved after, Arnold.
I think they just need to give it some time and they'll do it.
Yeah. Tracy Morgan will do it. That's for sure.
All right, let's get to our next topic.